Oh, we're live.
We're live. Good morning. Welcome everybody, committee members and council members to the 13th of May Harbour Area Sub-committee. Now I'm just going to move from the chair. Apologies for Councillor Blackler. Seconded for that. Seconded, Councillor Ryan, thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest? There was none, so we'll move on to confirmation of the previous meeting minutes. Item 3.1 on page 6. Does anyone have anything in regards to those minutes?
Move those.
Moved Mayor Kircher, seconded Graham Clark. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried, thank you. And we'll move into memorandum reports, and we have Josh Rendell online joining us by Zoom. Welcome, Josh. Did you want to introduce this report?
Yes, yep, can do. As per the majority of Harbour Area Committee meetings, we've got here a Harbour Area update that essentially it covers what activities have been undertaken in the Harbour Area, predominantly relating to the Harbour Master Plan. However, a number of operational items are also detailed in here. There's probably a little bit less update this time around than what there is traditionally, but happy to answer any questions that might come up.
So I'll just go through page 12. We're starting the marketplace. There's an update that work has been finished there around the farmers market area, and there's some soil contamination on the eastern side to be removed. Does anyone have any commentary around that item? Yeah, Kircher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just take the opportunity just to talk about that soil contamination, but also look at the bigger picture. Obviously, we've got stage 2 of that car park area that we haven't proceeded with, and I would like to suggest that we could recommend to council that we do proceed with stage 2. If we're going to be spending money on removing that contamination or dealing with the contamination, it would be probably more cost effective to do it in conjunction with actually sealing the rest of that area. Not to mention the fact that we've got some areas around there which we're wanting to allow some development to happen, and having the car park formed properly would aid the potential future sale of some of those lots on that site. So we'd like to get some feedback, perhaps from Josh in the first instance, just around the potential to do that, and how, if we were to proceed with it, how we might do a fairly streamlined procurement process, given that we've already or just recently done the other part of the car park. So happy to hear views from other members as well.
Thank you. And just before we go to you, Josh, below that item is Waterfront Road as well, for outside the Yacht and Powerboat Club. Just in regards to what Mayor Kircher is talking about, would it be worth looking at a procurement and getting both those sort of jobs done at once as a package? I'll let you answer first.
Yes, apologies. I'm just trying to hastily bring up the contract files for that particular one. I understood when we were looking at the different areas in and around the marketplace, / Stride Scott's Brewery there, we had some concept designs undertaken for the majority of the area, not into detailed design in terms of what we do in the different spaces. We only did that for the areas where we completed works recently. We did have some pricing undertaken for just a straightforward sealing of a car park. Don't have those to hand at the moment. However, there is the potential that we could utilise the procurement rate that we have, but equally we're sure we're going to need to go out for a resealing contract for the majority of our roading network. So there is the potential that we could leverage off that procurement activity as well. In terms of the drainage itself, it's looking like it potentially may be less complicated than we thought. So there might be the potential that we can do that with the existing roading maintenance contract rather than having to go for an external procurement process outside of that. But that's still being worked on by one of our officers. In terms of undertaking the work now, providing that there was a budget provision from council. I don't see that there'd be too many difficulties in progressing it.
So, just a wee bit muffly on the microphone there too, Josh, if there's something.
My apologies. My apologies.
Did anybody have any questions from committee members? Or anything to add?
Hear it.
Did you hear what Josh said? Yeah.
So just out of that, have we got firm pricing? I struggled to hear that properly. Do we have firm pricing for the resealing of the car park and pricing for the drainage issues in Waterfront Road, please?
Yeah, my apologies for we're not speaking as clearly as needed. I was just trying to find the documents for the marketplace contract, because we did have a number of prices that came in. We had some concept design undertaken, but not detailed design on all of the areas within the marketplace zone. Because of the pricing that came in, we didn't progress with detailed design. We have some pricing that we potentially can leverage off in terms of procurement activity, but I just have to touch base with those contractors and see whether those prices would still be honoured. We are talking about being close to 12 months on from that initial procurement activity. So it might be that we still have to approach the market again. In terms of the drainage over by the Yacht and Powerboat Club, it does look as though we can potentially undertake that work within the rating maintenance contract rather than having to go out with a separate contract. But we've just got an officer working on that at the moment.
I'm just wondering whether it's worth moving something that actually allows you to do a bit of work in the background and bring that to council. Either with yes, this can work, or no, it can't. Just you're recognising, you know, the few times that we actually get to meet here as the Harbour Area Committee, and being able to deal with it today rather than wait until the next meeting of the committee. But I'm certainly keen, Mr. Chair, to hear the views of other members around that.
Thank you. There's a couple of questions about the car park. As far as the Waitaki Bridge, the scales, you know, at the shed, the overhead crane, is that all part of this process? And the other question I have is, I'm a little concerned about maybe the funding, and will it come out of the funding that's still there for the wharf development? I dare say we'll be talking about the street lighting for the wharf and the services. So yeah, I'd just like to ask those questions.
Just as funding, my proposal would be to use the Harbour Endowment Fund, which you know, there's a strong element of economic development in this, and so it's if it makes some of those sites around that car park more valuable, if you like, then I think it's a really good use of the Harbour Endowment Fund, which is in credit.
We'll move on to the renovation of the Homes Wharf one afterwards, but are you happy with that answer for now?
So what do you want to?
I just think the other project is coming up further along in the paper, if you wanted to speak more to that again. So I'll just take that as a notice of motion now. Do you want to put that into words, or? It's pretty clear.
Do you want me to move that now?
If you, we could take it as movement now if you want.
Okay. Well, yeah, so I'll move that the Harbour Area Subcommittee recommends to council that it proceeds with stage 2 of the ex-railway land car park to be funded from the Harbour Endowment Fund.
Do we have a seconder?
Just a comment on that. If we just include that would include as part of that, the bridge and the scale shed and the crane, because that needs to be tied up at the same time, because you're working around it, through it, over it, as part of that scenario.
Yeah, I think if Mr. Rendell's happy, you know, basically this will drive a report coming to council, and if he's happy to address those matters in that.
Yep, those can be added to the report. Yep.
Yep, that's pretty clear. Call for, oh sorry, Councillor Ryan.
I guess just a question, 'cause, I mean, I'm supportive of the idea, but cautious to do so without knowing, to make a recommendation without knowing what the costs are. Is there any way we could?
Yeah, and then they'll come back to council to be
So
discussed
the
in,
wording was that we recommend that stage 2 proceeds.
to council. Yeah, so it'll come back to council and paper with all the budgets and figures and
You
nuances.
rec-
Josh.
say,
Josh, do you have, because I think in the paper that came to us recommending that we basically stage it, that there was a cost assigned to stage 2 of that car park.
Yeah, my apologies. I'm just trying to find it at the moment.
Yeah, what was your wording, sorry? I just, it sounded to me that we would say do it no matter what.
No, so recommend that to council that proceeds with that, but the report will come to council. Qualify everything, so it's
That's the decision making.
it'll be a
But
decision.
we're still recommending that it happen.
The Harbour Area Sub-committee.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So just to clarify that, does that come back to council direct or does it come back to the Harbour Committee for discussion before it's approved, please?
I'm happy to be led by Josh on this one. We've had the information on that. Obviously, we don't have it in front of us now. I had a feeling that the second stage of the car park was 170,000, something around that sort of number. But yeah, that would go to council with the idea that council will make a decision on whether it does proceed with that.
I've just found the pricing here. The indicative pricing previously for so this would be excluding stage 2 of the marketplace. So this would just be the parking area adjacent to the Scott's car park. Is approximately $240,000. Those prices are 12 months old, so there will be some additions on top of that. We did also restrict some of the works that was undertaken in Area 1 during the tender process to try to minimise, keep within the budget there. So I'll work on some final pricing, but and bring that back to the council. I think the recommendation being made at the moment would leave the decision in council's hands rather than in the Harbour Area Committee's hands.
Yeah, so could you please repeat that last sentence, Josh?
So to answer Mr. Kelcher's question, the recommendation being made at the moment would essentially leave it to council to establish a budget to work from, and then the report to, I suppose, proceed with the works could come back to the Harbour Area Committee, or we could just take it directly to council to award the work as well.
I'd just like to say, it's really hard to make a decision when we're not sure on what the pricing is.
And
Like,
so,
it's easy for us to say, oh yeah, let's go ahead. But how can we make the decision without knowing the numbers? I think we need to have that discussion when we know. Because now we've added in shifting these or fixing up these other pieces of that car park as far as the bridge and the and the crane and everything. Shouldn't we be making that decision here before it goes to council?
If it could come back here, it's quarterly meetings we have, so it'll be 4 months, but that's up to discussion here today. 3 months, sorry. So do you want to add anything to that, Josh?
No, this is a decision for the Harbour Area Committee to make as opposed to officers.
I think some of this comes back to the design and just the final completion. What does it include? What doesn't it include? And the 240K allowed for, does that include all the council costs? Just from memory, when Rooney's did the other side, their tender price was one thing, and then the actual council costs come back at about another 150 or 180,000 more. So we just need to understand the figures and what they include. And is it total cost or just the contractor's cost?
I don't have pricing information for you today that's that detailed. We'd have to go away and have a look at the issue, and then bring it back if you'd like further detail. Apologies, I wasn't prepared to discuss this particular topic today.
Supplementary.
Just on that, then it could be just handled by a simple email with some information as to where we get to, an email around, and that could be done well before the next Harbour Committee, so it makes it easy. 3 months goes around pretty quick. You've got some major changes coming up in council not too far away. And it'll be interesting to see who's all sitting around the table at that time.
You're saying the budget might need to be established, Josh. Would that be better to be done prior to the long-term plan being finalised, or endowments? It's no problem there.
That would be preferable, yes, if that any investment decisions council was making was within the context of the wider long-term plan. We don't necessarily have to proceed with the work, even if a budget line is established, but it would be preferable that a budget be established if we are considering undertaking the work, so that all of council can consider the investment in the context of the wider long-term plan.
Okay. Well, would I be, if I asked the committee, would you be happy with Josh to do the work and put it across us via email before the recommendation goes to council?
Yeah.
Are you happy as the mover with that, Megan?
Yeah, look, I certainly don't mind. I do mind a big delay of months before we were to see it again. But if there's a way around that, as you've described, I'd be certainly happier with that. I did have a question which was related to the LTP. This was identified as a next stage, but have we actually included it in the next 9 years of work? Same would go for the farmers market area itself, that was stage 1 was done, but not stage 2. Has that been included in the long-term plan? Not necessarily questions we need answers to right now if you don't have them at hand. And I had hoped to have a chat with you before the meeting, Josh, but obviously
zooming in. Yeah, apologies. I'm not completely sure whether it is detailed in the long-term plan, given some of the reductions in projects that have been made to try to minimise rates increases. I'd suggest that it's probably one that has fallen off, but I can find that out and get back to you so that you can include considerations for whether it be included or not included in your key directions.
Okay. I think I'm going to take the recommendation as it stands with the added part that it comes by email via the subcommittee, and council will be having long-term plan discussions this afternoon, so we can discuss the budgets there later on. So I'll put that to motion. All those in favour? Oh, not second. Did you second it earlier?
I'll second it as it stands now.
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me, I just need the wording of that. I've got that the Harbour Area Sub-committee recommends to council that it proceeds to stage 2 of the ex-railway land car park to be funded from the Harbour Endowment Fund. And number 2, that the matter be referred back to the committee by email
Prior to going to council.
prior to going to council. So that means that it will definitely, the recommendation will definitely go to council.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't think so.
So you,
I think that we need to know how much this is going to cost.
right,
And so what if we all say, no, we don't like the cost and we don't think that we should proceed? If you turn around and say to council, go ahead, we actually haven't decided.
Sorry, I think that was a step change I was trying to add in without halting the process. So if we can get the wording to
Well, you can change it to
so
the
on our approval of.
yes, yeah. So that was clear.
so really then what you're suggesting is that the recommendation is doesn't stand, because as the recommendation stands, it would go to council immediately. So you need a new recommendation stating what it is you would like to happen, please.
Try and do this. The Harbour Area Subcommittee requests from officers information on completing stage 2 of the ex-railway land car park. To be confirmed by email as to whether it's a report goes to council on the matter.
Thank you. I've noted that one. Do we have a mover?
So I'll move that.
Moved Mayor Kircher, seconded
So I'll second that.
Mr Murdoch. Sorry.
Just speaking to it, Mr. Chair, it's not as definitive as it would be, but it's problematic of only having 4 meetings a year and trying to action some of the stuff. It won't have a rate impact if it's actually coming from the Harbour Endowment Fund, which is an important part, but equally it should be, projects like this should have been identified in the long-term plan. And same with the market area itself, because it was very deliberately stage 1 we have completed of both those projects, and understanding that the stage 2 was going to happen at some stage. The use of the Harbour Endowment Fund, as I said, I think is appropriate. It does keep it away from adding to rates, and it is I believe a good investment in the area, both from an amenity point of view, but also for a value adding point of view for the areas that we've got around that car park for potential sale in the future. And again, just bring that back to council's desire to realise some of those property sales where they make sense and where they're strategically advantageous to the community and can help grow the economy.
Do we have any other speakers? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you. Move on to the next item, streetlight renewals. There's been delays in the manufacturing gear. Just had a question, Josh. What are gear trays, and is that something that's not? Is it not manufactured in New Zealand?
Evidently not. Sorry, they're essentially parts of the control system, and we do have to wait for those to arrive from overseas.
Right. Yeah, you're still having trouble hearing on that line.
Sorry.
That's right. Yeah. Take this. Yeah, we've got a Sparky in the room. So next couple of 2 projects: breakwater armouring and renovation of Holmes Wharf. Does anyone have any questions around the tetrapod installation? Again, is there any local contractor scope for that, Mr. Rendell?
Yes. So the intention here is to engage with several local contractors, essentially pass on the molds that we have to build tetrapods, have them undertake the construction of 3 or 4 of them, so that they can get an understanding of the process in terms of forming the molds, curing and then dismantling the molds to prepare the next ones. And in that way, they can get an idea of how long it takes to create one, and then they can provide some further pricing for a larger scale operation. So the process at the moment is trying to enable contractors to be able to bid for it, and they'll all be local contractors given the size of the tetrapods and the molds.
Thank you. You, Kitcher?
Just a quick question, Josh. How many molds have we actually got? Just to understand how fast a program could be rolled out.
I believe we have 2.
Do you want to add something, Mr. Coucher? No. Renovation of Holmes Wharf. Mr. Murdoch.
Yes, look, I'm just like to query what the appetite is for putting in the services for the wharf. I understand that there's a fair cost involved. Also understand that we have the actual lights have arrived for the wharf. And if it is a budget problem, then maybe we could just get the services on as far as the sewage and power to the wharf itself, because we have consent to dig the hole. And as some of that soil coming out is contaminated, we will also have consent to put it over by the penguin colony, as I understand. So I'd just like to know what the feeling is over the services. And Josh, if you can add anything to that.
Yes, yep, just for further context, I discussed this one with one of our project managers yesterday. They've indicated that the pricing came back around $600,000. And the major issue with that one is that for the power connections, there isn't sufficient, capacity within the switch to enable the sheds that were being used, the sheds that are there to have power connected to them as well. There was only enough for the streetlight link. And if we wanted enough power for the sheds to be used as well, we had to bring power around from Waterfront Road. So it's quite a significant excavation to be able to get from one to the other, including several drill shots because of the aesthetics in the area, not having to rip everything up and redo it all. So quite expensive. We could potentially do a half measure and not connect the power up, but provide ducting for it. I think this is one where, again, we need to bring a paper back to the Harbour Area Committee with some options and pricing for them to consider what we do.
Thank you. Supplementary,
I'd just like to know from the Harbour Area Committee how they feel about putting those services on. Can you see the reason why we need to have the lighting down there? We've got a wharf open that's to the public overnight, which is quite a health and safety hazard. We've got guys that are working off commercial fishing boats that start at 4 o'clock in the morning, can't see to get down ladders. So it's quite a crucial thing that I feel that we go ahead with the lighting at least.
Did you have a time, Josh, that you thought that might come back to the subcommittee?
I can make sure something's put together for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, just moving on to the next one then. Harbour Harbour Slipway project. This thing pretty successful, 100% utilisation of the crane there. It's good to see. Just a question, how do we monitor that in between? What sort of arrangement do we have between the slipmaster and property there? Obviously it's going well, but I can't imagine we'll expand it anytime soon. But
So the question you're asking is, what relationship do I have with the council? Is that
what sort of agreement is in place there? Just how do we monitor the success of any future potential?
Well, I take all the bookings and do all the invoicing, and as you know, I'm a part-time employee of council. So we've had a lot of interest from outside of Oamaru. So recently we've had Timaru. I met a guy yesterday who's bringing a boat up from Stewart Island. So I report directly to property, and of course I document everything that goes on with the slip. So that's how it's handled.
That's an exciting addition down to the harbour. Do you have any other questions on any other projects? Move on to harbour moorings. That's good. Question on that, Josh. What are our next steps for either application or removal of the remaining 5?
Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of detail on this particular project. All that I can really go off is what's written there. Claire gave her apologies and for not being able to make it along today. She's in a training course today, and asked that I divert any questions regarding the harbour moorings to her. So I'll do that and ask her to send an email around to the Harbour Area Committee.
Thank you. Do we have anything else from the floor before we carry on? If not, declare the meeting closed. Do we need a motion to accept that memorandum report? Yeah, so it's move that we receive the memorandum report. Mayor Kircher, seconded Mr. Coucher. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Thanks for everyone's participation and I'll declare the meeting closed.
Thank you.